Hi, this is Rachel from 7 and All, and today I'm going to give you a homeschool update on our homeschool in the month of October. So guys, this is my first time doing a monthly homeschool recap. I'm going to share with you the general structure I want to follow. I'll begin with just a kind of big picture overview of how did our month go. Then I'll highlight a few really standout resources from the month. I'm not going to talk about everything, don't worry, that would be a long video. I'll highlight a few standout resources, and then I'm going to end with a larger reflection or lesson that I think is a little bit bigger than just my homeschool, and to give you something to chew on as well. I'm excited about doing this as a new series on this channel for the first time this year. Please do leave me some comments if you like this kind of video, if you like how it turns out, and I invite you to share something about your homeschool in October with me. What was a standout resource or activity for you this month? What was a lesson that really stood out to you? All right, so I'll start with my recap of the month. We arrived back in our home right around the end of September, maybe September 29th. I think. And then we've had the month of October. We had 4 weeks of school, and we accomplished 4 weeks in all of our curriculums that are scheduled by week. Granted, most of those curriculums are scheduled as 4-day weeks, and we do 5 days of school in a week. And I find that to work really excellently. So even if you do school 5 days a week, I would say don't necessarily shy away from curriculums that kind of naturally place the schedule as 4 days a week, because I think you will find something to do on that 5th day for sure. You can always, play an extra review game on the numbers, do a little bit of extra review reading, whatever it is. It's still pretty easy to fill up that 5th day. I liked it. I think what we have chosen is all working very well. You have probably noticed from some of my videos I've already done gushing about curriculum. I'm loving my curriculum choices. It's going very well. If you are new to my channel, do know I have a son who's in pre-K, and I have a younger son who is just starting kind of official preschool for the very first time. And if you want to know what curriculums we are using, check out my October Day in the Life video from earlier this month. I'll link to it down below. In that video, I went through all the different resources, major resources we are using this year. So overall, homeschooling is going fantastically. I am loving our routine and our schedule. The one thing I will point out is I am officially transitioning to the phase of parenthood where my children no longer nap, but they are also not old enough to be super responsible and having very, very good ideas that are not dangerous or don't involve markers on surfaces where they shouldn't be, or those types of things, So I'm kind of in that middle stage. They don't nap, and they're also not big kids yet. So I'm not getting as much work done as I used to get done as far as, my writing and my research and curriculum development work. I'm not getting as much of that done, but I know this is a season. I had a good long run where I had napping kids, and now I don't. They are full of energy. I get to exercise right along with them, and we have very fun days. But I'm going to have to be very okay with my writing output is not going to be accomplished as quickly for this season of life, especially because the rest of my family isn't in town, so we don't even have a weekend babysitter or anything like that. But we've been having a lot of fun. We have done some family outings. I don't tend to use the word field trip, probably because I never went to a real school or have any connection with the idea of field trip. My favorite word is adventure. That's almost my favorite word in English is adventure. So I tend to call our outings adventures. Our most amazing adventure of the month was going on a 2-hour hike through the jungle in the rain to a remote beach where we got to see baby sea turtles. That was amazing. I feel like it's kind of cliche to be obsessed with baby sea turtles, but have you seen them? They're awesome. So yeah, that was our favorite activity of the month. Now on to some of the standout resources that I want to share with you. Something new, totally new, that I implemented this month was using a narration journal with my son. Now the idea of a narration journal, and I just bought these little primary journals. I bought them from Walmart when we were in the US. They were about $3. This is not the fanciest option. There are fancier options. School Nest makes very pretty primary journals that you can buy on Amazon, and maybe they're like $6 or $7. But the idea is half a page of blank space and then half a page of lines. And after we're reading a story, we are using this for our Beautiful Mundo Spanish curriculum. After we read a story, and we read it for a couple days and we enjoy that story over the course of a week, by the end of the week, he decides, we look at the pictures and I'll have him decide what picture he'd like to draw about something that he remembers from this book. And then we'll write down the title of the book, and together we'll come up with at least one sentence that says something important he wants to remember about that book. So we have been using this. This has been a huge hit. We've been doing it consistently each of the 4 weeks. And sometimes he wants to do 2 pages on a story that we read, and I'm okay with that. You know, hey, more drawing, more coming up with sentences about the story that we're learning. But we've been doing this consistently with our Spanish stories, but then he wanted a book where he could, like, he kept having ideas. I want to write about this in my journal. I want to draw a picture of this. And I did want to keep this journal specifically for our Spanish storybooks that we're reading, so we can kind of have a collection of those. But the good thing is I had bought 2 when I was at Walmart, which was a very good move on my part. I'm a minimalist, so I don't tend to buy things in 2s. So this was kind of a shock that I happened to do this. But I had 2, so I gave him the other one and I said, this one, you know, we're gonna keep this one for school, but this one you can write about whatever you want to. You can draw pictures of whatever you want to. And by write, he doesn't write. He's 4 years old. So most of the time, he's not doing any actual writing. He can tell me what he wants to say and I will scribe for him. Sometimes he does copy out of a book that he's looking at, and he'll copy his own words into it. So he now has his own, and this one has about 30 pages filled out with pictures and sentences and little facts. About half of it is ocean animals and half of it is dinos, with a couple of other really random topics mixed in, like Christmas and Abraham Lincoln. It's a definitely random collection, but I love to see how this one thing that I implemented for school, for practicing our Spanish, for reviewing a story after we've read it a few times, has transferred into now he's excited when he reads his own books, or when he just has an idea about something, he wants to make a page about it. And so, huge hit, highly recommending this narration journal habit. Another thing I implemented is for my littler son. So I actually instituted this box, had the idea to do this box, because I did not buy the Sunlight resource box that goes with Sunlight Level T, and he is doing Sunlight Level T. I was like, you know, it costs money. It takes up space in the suitcase. I'm sure I'm sure my resources won't maybe be as perfect, but they'll work. They'll get the job done for whatever activities they have. And in that, they are going over a certain letter each week, or they're going over a certain number, so the number is going to be 5, and a shape that they go over. So I have just been, I don't have the official Sunlight box, but each week when I'm doing my homeschool planning on Friday, I will set up this little box for the new next week of school, and it has made it so easy that just, you know, sometime on any day of school, I can just grab this little box, and sometimes it has little shape puzzles in it. If I have a shape puzzle, I didn't have one for this week's shape, which is an oval. I did have this. This is the something that comes in the Sunlight supply kit, but since I didn't buy it, I actually had my dad 3D print me. They're little Montessori shape stencils frames. They have a specific name, blanking on it right now, but they're these things. They've got little handles, shapes, and then outside frames. And Sunlight has different activities for them to do, like trace inside the shape. We're learning the name of the shape. We're taking this, we're going around the house trying to find other things with this shape. But having this little box with, okay, I've got a couple cards with S, and then, you know, I just went ahead and I threw in a seahorse in here that I knew I had, or a seal. And I've got this card, and we can count the whales every day, and he likes animals, so that works out good. Or I've got this little block with the number 5 on it, and then here it's got 5 spots that we can count. So a few little activities like that. And then I also keep our Puramente Preescolar, or purely preschool, memory cards in this box as well. So basically keeping all these little cards or little manipulatives that I want to focus on for the week in one box has been really helpful because I have different useful learning things, different shapes puzzles or number puzzles or things, but to actually like get them out, you know, that takes time, that takes mental energy, but to just put a few focused things in a box and then you can have that and play with that, get them out, talk about them throughout the week is super helpful. So the Purely Preschool he did for this past month was the fall one. He's going to be doing transportation or transportación, and so his next week, this is all set up for the next week. Next week's going to be about trains, which are one of his most favorite things in the whole world. Trains, planes, boats, and buses. It's love for this little boy. So we're going to have an awesome next month. But yeah, so if you've ever been thinking, I have so many great manipulatives, puzzles, resources, maybe one idea you could take is just put a couple things in a box and play with those throughout the week rather than be like, oh, I should do our animal puzzle, I should do our number puzzle. Just like reduce the decision fatigue a little bit, put some things in a week and just go with it. Put some things in a box and just go with it. The other resource I want to highlight is one that is scheduled as a part of Sunlight P, and I'm doing this with my older son. This is a workbook series. I know everyone's terrified of workbooks, okay? Maybe terrified is too strong of a word, but we don't really like workbooks a whole lot. These workbooks are a little bit different from what you would normally expect. These workbooks are having us do activities like I'm making 2 different sounds, like maybe I'm clapping and then I'm stomping my feet, or I'm hitting a ruler on the table and then I'm slamming a book. I'm making 2 different sounds, or I'm making the same sound 2 times. He's supposed to be closing his eyes and listening and then having to distinguish, was that the same sound or were they 2 different sounds? Or they're having us do activities like I put 4 items on a tray, he closes his eyes, I take one away, and he's supposed to mark which one is missing. So yes, these are workbooks, developing the early learner. I will put the link to the series of these at the cheapest place I found them was Rainbow Resource. These have been quite a unique little set of workbooks. They're just black and white, but they definitely go a little bit beyond. They're a little more creative. I hope you can see some of that. A little more creative than the average workbook. You definitely have to actually read the instructions, which the instructions are in the back of the book for some of the pages. So you have to be able to read those. You have to do them with your child. They're not something independent. They have to listen to the instructions and then start them. But those have been a neat little resource. A couple book standouts from this month. I'll show you one is the classic Caps for Sale. Oldie but a goodie. One reason this stood out to me was just how much my boys connected with it, and they started acting out this story on their own, like later that week, without me instigating it, without me being like, hey, you know, let's act out that story we read. I just found them playing, and they were acting out Caps for Sale because they'd found all their baseball caps, and the little one was jumping on the bed and acting like a monkey and stealing the caps. I think they really connected with this book, interestingly enough, because monkeys in trees and monkeys stealing stuff is a very real part of their life. So maybe to other kids this is not such a real life book, but to them it was very real. A monkey has stolen my son's toy before. A monkey has stolen our laundry detergent. We have, you know, monkeys stealing stuff happens in their lives, and monkeys up in trees is something they see all the time. So that was a standout book. The next book I want to highlight is Olinguito, and this is a bilingual A to Z book, which is set in the cloud forest of Ecuador. This was scheduled by our Beautiful Mundo Spanish curriculum because the week we read this, we were focusing on learning the alphabet in Spanish. It's a really beautifully done Spanish alphabet book, but it goes so much beyond that. It's the story of a zoologist looking for an olinguito in the cloud forest. And on every single page, you can find the zoologist somewhere. He's a little hard to find. He's this little shadowy person walking through the jungle. My boys loved looking for him. I love the fact that this was based on a true expedition, a true, basically scientific research that discovered a new mammal in Ecuador not many years ago at all, and they have information in the back in both languages, in Spanish and in English, about this discovery. So we read this week. It's an ABC book, but I can definitely foresee us using this again next year when we're studying South America in our Around the World study. So I think this is a book we enjoyed it now, and we can continue to enjoy it in different ways as they grow. Now I want to close this by talking about the big reflection or lesson or slightly controversial part of my homeschool recap for the month, which I will introduce by saying I did start All About Reading with my 4-year-old pre-K son this month, and we can get all the gasping and clutching your pearls out of the way with now that I've confessed that. We're not racing through it. I think we've completed the first 6 lessons, ready to start lesson 7 next week. So I hear that again. I'm a homeschooler, and I started All About Reading. I started consistent phonics instruction with a 4-year-old boy, no less, this month, and it has gone fantastically. It has been an absolute delight, and I'm astounded at the progress he's made. It's not like he's all of a sudden reading in a month. He's not a spectacularly, he's not a prodigy or something like that. He's just a kid who loves words, who loves books, who's interested and curious and motivated, and I'm seeing so much progress in little short lessons daily, and I'm really excited about it. Now, why is this controversial, or why is this my big reflection from the month? Well, if you listen much to all the homeschool experts, and if you listen much to the talk about child development, especially among homeschoolers, they will say, delay reading instruction. They will say, most children are not developmentally ready to begin reading instruction until age 6 or maybe 7, or possibly later for some children. There's a lot of focus on this. There's a lot of focus, especially with boys, on don't get started reading with them. People will very proudly say, I refuse to teach my child how to read anything until they turn 6 years old. This is a big push in homeschool. This is a big push from people who do have a lot of expertise, and there are reasons behind what they are teaching and what they are advising. However, we are not teaching the average child who always follows the perfect curve of childhood development and does everything the way that the experts say they ought to. We are teaching our own children. So here's what all the experts and all the homeschool experts will say is, don't do reading instruction in pre-K. Don't do it in early kindergarten. Wait. That's what the experts would say. What I had my mom saying to me from the other side was, don't miss the window. From her experience, she said, there's this window of opportunity when kids have mastered the alphabet, when they know their letter sounds very well, and when they're showing a lot of curiosity and interest in words and in learning to read. It's a window when they're sitting down with a piece of paper and they're saying, how do you spell I love you, Papa? I want to write that. And they don't even know how to read. They don't know any words yet, but they're asking to write words. It's a window where they're taking out one of their picture books and they're just copying random words onto pieces of paper. It's a window where they're pointing out, hey, I see a big letter here and I see a small letter here. I see a dot. What's this dot for? They're asking a lot of questions. They're showing curiosity. And my mom says, don't miss that window. And don't worry about if your child is too young for what the experts say. When they're showing that window of opportunity, if you miss it, then they will become too accustomed to the fact that they don't know how to blend letters together. Yeah, they know their sounds, but they don't really know what to do with those sounds. They'll get too used to the fact that reading isn't something I can do. That's something mom can do. It's not something I can do. So this was what my mom was saying to me on one side, is she's like, I'm seeing a lot of readiness symptoms in that boy. And then on the other side, all the experts say, just wait, it doesn't matter. They'll, by 3rd or 4th grade, they'll all be reading at the same level of fluency anyways. Don't bother starting. It'll just be painful and cause everybody hassle. Well, it's probably pretty predictable. I decided to listen to my mom over the experts. I think she is a remarkable person and worth listening to. And I did, but I was also going into it very much humble and not tied into the idea of I have to stick with this. I was just like, I'm gonna try it. I'll give it a try. I'll give my mom's advice a try, and I'll see if we make any progress. And if we don't, maybe he just isn't quite ready enough. So we've tried it for 4 weeks consistently. I do not do 20-minute lessons. I do not. All About Reading recommends 20 minutes spent on reading instruction a day. I think that's way too long on one specific lesson for a 4-year-old. I definitely don't spend 20 minutes. It's probably less than 10 minutes most days, but probably around 10 minutes. And I'm astounded with the rate at which he's picking up new things. I basically show him the sight word the on the day we're supposed to learn the sight word the. And then for the weeks since then, he's just pointing out, oh, here's a the, here's a the, here's a the in every book we read. And I teach him a new sight word, and then he knows that one too. And his sounding out, it's not perfect. It's not like he's looking at words and reading words by sight immediately, but he's able to look at a word, sound it out, and put it together. And he's improved. Like within these 4 weeks, I can tell that his sounding out has improved, and it's gotten smoother and it's gotten faster from, just spending a consistent amount of time each day on it. So this is where I'm saying I think my mom was right, that you don't have to worry so much about these big ideas of what Charlotte Mason said about when children should learn how to read, or what the experts say about childhood development. You've got to know your kid, and you've got to realize you're homeschooling your own kid. Your own kid might be ready at 6 or 7. Your own kid might be ready at 5. Your own kid might be ready at 3. Some kids are. Know your kid for whatever it is. Readiness could apply to reading. It could apply to so many different topics. But this is my big reflection of the experts. They don't know your kid. But homeschool gives us the gift of getting to know our kid and getting to give them a chance and see, wow, they were maybe even more ready than we even realized. So that is my October homeschool update. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please leave me some comments down below. What do you think about this big idea of homeschooling your own kid versus following the expert recommendations? Let me know. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more nerdy homeschool conversations. I'll be having plenty of them this upcoming November and beyond. Bye.